I am here today with Juror 785, also known as the Egg Juror, and now also known as Myra Crosby. How are you doing today? You've had a big week. Your new book, Enough is Enough, is finally hitting Amazon. I just saw you on Fox Nation today. It's a lot.
It's been a whole lot. It's been a busy week,
Yeah.
and it's
I
only
mean,
Tuesday.
going back to when you got that juror summons in December of 2022, I mean, uh, can you even would you have ever imagined you'd be here?
No,
Yeah.
wouldn't want to be here.
Yeah. It has been quite the road. So when you did get that juror summons, you, unlike most people in the area, were not overly familiar with the Murdoch case, right?
I was not. I'm not from the area, so I didn't. If it wouldn't have been for my HR lady, I wouldn't even known it was a murder trial. And I just looked at her like, you're crazy. It's just
Right.
a simple jury duty thing. And no, she was right.
Yeah, I think there were 900 summons that went out. I mean, people don't understand how small that area is. Everybody truly knows everybody. They've all crossed paths. They've all, in some way or another, whether working together through school, through, it is a small community. It's rural.
It, it is.
So you get that juror summons and you didn't know much going about it, and you show up your first day for jury duty, and I mean they you get there and you immediately start going into voir dire where they're asking questions, and that process was interesting because everybody had ties to everybody else. I mean, there were relatives of the first responders that were being questioned, and I mean, was that kind of overwhelming?
It was a lot of people with a lot of questions, and yeah, some people just, I can't do it. I got, I have to go to work. I got this, or I'm kin to this one, or I was kin to somebody that knew somebody that was, what I mean, it was a lot, and I'm just thinking, dang, who are these people? But it
I
was a
mean,
lot to deal
the
with.
trial was 6 weeks long, but I mean, we really jumped. I mean, we jumped in. I mean, it was like first day, all right, we're doing jury selection. Jury selection's done. All right, we're going straight into opening statements. Um, and not knowing a lot about it, those opening statements were intense.
They were
Um,
powerful.
yeah,
They were very
especially,
powerful.
I mean, the prosecutions, I just remember there being a big storm when Creighton Waters was talking about the storm coming, and it was
Mhm.
just real. I remember it being very, very intense. Do you remember, like, at any point during those opening statements where you were thinking, "Whoa, this isn't just any trial that I'm in"?
No, when he was talking about, killing Paul and killing Maggie, and I mean, went into graphic detail and just, it felt like you were in a movie, not in a courtroom. And I'm just like, what the hell did I get myself into?
I'm like,
Yeah.
"What is
What in
happening?"
the world?
And, like, I remember, like, every day at the end of the trial, at the end of the court proceedings for the day, I would walk, out of our trailer, and there would be, like, dozens of cameras lined all along the sidewalk and, like, lit up for their shots, because it would get dark early. It was January, and, I'm not a veteran news person, so I was like, "Whoa, this is." I mean, you saw Nancy Grace sitting out there. I mean, as a jury member, that must have been wild too.
We could look out the windows and we could see people outside. And I mean, there was people out there holding up like picket signs, and you're just like, wow. Well, you thought you was on a movie star trial or something like that. I mean, I just, I guess some people had vested interest in this and they wanted to know what was happening. I've never been on anything, seen anything, and don't ever want to be on anything like this again in my life.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I just the thought of covering a second trial if he gets a new trial is, it's exhausting. It's not something, personally I'm looking forward to. Is just, but if it has to happen, it has to happen. So I mean, your identities have been strictly protected. I've known who you are for a while now. But it's, something that, even during the trial, I was hesitant to even identify, you know, male juror. I mean, I tried to, as much as possible, stick to like the very basics. There's two jurors that were dismissed because of COVID. But there was an instance early on in the trial that, it's kind of where your book starts. And I think it, for you, is kind of where this entire journey started. And that was, your identities were somewhat compromised by a
First
spreadsheet.
day.
First day,
First day.
a spreadsheet a podcaster had put on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, you talk about how, you weren't afraid, but you felt righteous indignation about that. Can you tell me a little bit about, that, what that did to you guys, your confidence as, a
Yeah,
jury?
there was whispers about it, and at the time, I didn't. I guess I'm not computer savvy, not news savvy or social media, but I didn't know what doxed was. So I didn't know what was said about us, but apparently it was whether we were white, black, male, female, where we worked, and I mean, it just I work at a monkey farm, so it's not very hard to put two and two together. White female works at monkey farm. Let's just go check the monkey farm and see who's been out for a little while.
Right,
I mean, that podcaster violated a court order. I want to know why hasn't she been charged with contempt?
right. I mean, and that goes back to just how small the Colleton County community is. I mean, Walterboro it's not a big place. I mean, and
You
yeah,
can't
we
even
got to
go to
know everybody
Walmart
while
with
we were
friends.
there.
Yeah, you go
Right.
to Walmart, you see somebody you know.
So did that, did that did that did you run into issues during the time that you served on the jury where people were like, oh, that, mentioned, hey, you work at the monkey farm, I saw.
No, because I kind of became a hermit.
Yeah,
I went to court. I come home on the weekends. Me and my husband would disappear out of Walterboro, out of Colleton County, just to get away. And you know, it it was. I feel like I had more time daily in at the court than I did at a working job.
right.
And if you didn't get away, it would eat at you some of the things that we saw and what we heard. You just wanted to relax your brain for that weekend.
Yeah, it was intense. I remember at the end of the day, we would kind of wrap up and go home. I wasn't watching the news. I didn't want to know. Like, I had just spent the entire day because it was all that was on the news. I didn't want to know any of
My
it.
our go to was to watch Two and a Half Men or Everybody
Yeah.
Loves Raymond because I wanted comedy.
Yes.
Something to make you happy when you're going to sleep after what you've been through all day. You kind of need a little break.
Yep.
So,
So the prosecution, they always start presenting their case. And they, from my memory, they started out strong, but you didn't hear all of the things that we heard in the very beginning because there were a lot of in-camera testimonies which weren't in front of the jury. Well, they decided whether or not the financial information, the prior bad acts, would be allowed in. So as the prosecution was presenting their case and as they were going on and more information started, coming out about what they were presenting as evidence, what were your thoughts as the prosecution was presenting?
um, they showed a lot of financial. and that more or less gave to his character. I didn't see it as motive, but I saw it as, I don't want to say character assassination, but it kind of was. Because, I mean, if you'll lie and you'll steal, is there a possibility that you could commit murder?
Right. Right. And they, I mean, as they went through all of their, their forensic witnesses, their witnesses with the financial crimes, their experts, the coroner, the medical examiner, as they started to see their full case put together, and they ended with the timeline testimony from a SLED agent. Do you remember thinking, this case is really, it was circumstantial, but do you remember thinking they built a good case? Or do you remember there being holes for you?
For me, there were holes, and even when there were several witnesses that stuck out to me. Agent Worley was one that I mean, I think she was on the stand 2 or 3 days. But when she came out and she said it was possible there were two shooters, I'm picturing that in my mind because it happened within these minutes, and it's very possible.
Yeah,
So,
it
I
was a
mean,
short window of opportunity for that crime to have occurred.
very short. And when you look at Alex, well, don't get me wrong. I've seen from the videos that we saw of him to what we saw in court, he lost a lot of weight.
Mhm.
But in those videos, he was pretty, I don't want to say, well, he was pretty healthy,
Yes.
healthy, chunky wise,
Yeah,
if you
well,
will. Yeah, he was having good meals. And then in court, he had went down in size. But looking at the videos that he was in there, like I said in my Fox interview, I'm a small person, and I don't know if I could have been that fast. And I
yeah,
consider myself to be healthy, but I just there were a lot of holes for me.
yeah. And I mean, during the trial, after you're dismissed, and we'll get into that, but after you were dismissed, we had, people telling us, oh, her heels were dug in. There's no way she was going to vote not guilty. She was guilty all the way. But you were undecided.
I was, because
You had not.
I had questions. I mean, I had, part of me's here saying, okay, he had opportunity and he was in the vicinity. I can't say he was there at the time of death because I don't think they proved the time of death.
Mhm.
And but in the same sense that he had the opportunity, so did somebody else. It was possible there was two shooters. It was possible somebody else was there. It was
Right.
possible he did it. I mean, I can't say whether he's guilty or not, but I don't believe it was proved beyond a reasonable doubt.
So the defense starts their case, and Alex, I remember there was quite the buzz outside the courthouse, among the press. Is he going to testify? We've heard he's going to testify. No, there's no way he's going to testify. We were hearing different things. Um, were you guys wondering if he was going to take the stand or?
I had no clue until
Yeah,
Becky came in that day, and
and that was before his first day of testifying.
correct.
Okay, and
That was the epic day.
the the 2 full days. It was definitely, epic might be an understatement in this case.
Yeah.
I thought you had really interesting perspectives on his testimony. Because a lot, you hear most people say, "Oh, he tanked his own case." You saw something different in him.
I saw emotion. I can't, for somebody to say, "Oh, he's a liar." Well, I'm not arguing that he's not a liar. I'm not arguing he's not a thief. I'm arguing he should have a fair trial. And when he did show emotion, it was when, the defense was showing him pictures of his murdered family. Was he crying during that? I was sitting right there up close. I could see him. Yes, he was crying. I've heard other jurors say, "Oh, there was no tears." Well, I'm here to tell you, I saw it. He was crying. But when the state was questioning him, he was not crying. Well, I get that too. You talking about all these crimes I committed? I stole all this money. Well, yeah, I'm not crying. I screwed up.
Most
I
of the
made a
first
mistake,
day was focused, the state focused on the
and
financial crimes.
it was a lot. It was overwhelming for the jury. I think. I mean, we just got so caught up in, okay, he stole from this one, he stole from that one, and it got to the point that even Alex was like, "If you say so, Mr. Waters, if you say so."
Yeah,
On the
I remember sitting there like, and you said you guys were like, "Oh, come on, let's move on." And I remember thinking that while I was watching, it was a lot.
it
I
was
mean,
overkill.
yeah, I don't know if there was. I always wondered if there was a legal reason they did it, like they had to get that on record for their other cases. I don't know, but it
I
was
don't know.
exhausting.
It was.
So I thought that was really, and like that you picked up on that too, and about him crying. I mean, that courtroom, you didn't see the jury. I mean, because you weren't supposed to be on camera. You guys were right there. I mean, the witness stand was like a foot away from the jury box, so you
Mhm.
were literally right, your feet away from him.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you saw the actual tears on his face, and because people do argue that.
I people always say that. Oh, I heard one of the jurors on his interview saying, "Oh, they weren't real tears." Well, I was sitting up front. I mean, I second chair right there, looking at the witness stand. I watched all of them, and that was one thing when Becky said, "Oh, watch him closely." Well, I watched all the witnesses closely because I wanted to pay attention to what they were saying.
Right.
So, I mean, it was bothersome because I want to say that even in the jury room when he was crying, we went for break. We all said something to, I don't know if it which bailiff was in there. We're like, every other witness had a box of Kleenex up there, but he got there and there was no box of Kleenex. Why? Can y'all please put a box of Kleenex up there? I mean,
Right. Right. He's on trial for murder, but they have not found him guilty yet. Treat him like a human. I mean, yeah, I mean, he is not. I always say, I mean, my personal opinion is he is where he belongs, but did 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 he get there the right way? I don't think
it's
so.
about yeah, it's about the process. It's not a matter of whether he's innocent or whether he's guilty. It's a matter of getting a fair trial
Yeah.
that everybody deserves. Do I think he's a good person? Sorry, no. But I still believe that he's entitled to his Sixth Amendment right, a fair trial, just process, and he didn't get that.
Now, you just talked about Becky, and I do want to start getting into that. Becky Hill, the clerk of court in Colleton County, who the defense has alleged tampered with the jury. You talked about her and her talking about to the jury about Alex testifying. Can you tell me what she said?
She came in the day that Alex was going to testify. She came through the door, and I said it over and over. She was very enthusiastic. She said, "Today is going to be epic." She said Alex was going to take the stand. And she told us, "Don't be fooled by the defense. You're going to hear a lot of things. Pay very close attention to Alex, his body movements." And then she proceeded to tell us that this was the trial of the century and we were all going to be famous.
Now, you weren't the only person that heard that, right?
No, I was not.
Okay. So all the wa- was it the entire jury that was nearby or most of them?
We were lined up in the hallway getting ready to go into the courtroom.
At the time, did that strike you as bizarre? Did you feel like, what the heck? She shouldn't be seeing this, or just
I just kind of looked dumbfounded. Did she really just say that? Did she just
right?
tell us that? You just told us that everything they say is going to be a lie. Do I believe you? Do I believe the courts? Do I believe the defense? I mean, and I was kind of dumbfounded.
Right. Now I mean, she had relationships with some of the jurors. Was that, something that was present at the start of the trial, or did they get friendlier throughout the trial, do you think, from your perception?
There was 2 different jury rooms, and I think she was more frequent to the smaller jury room than she was the larger jury room,
Right.
and she seemed friendly with a couple people, like she had knew them prior to, but I can't say if she did
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah. So now there are two things that happened during this trial that directly involved you and directly affected you. And I think people kind of get confused because there is so much. I mean, there's just so much going on. But the first is this alleged Facebook post that was made by your ex-husband that nobody has ever found. And then the second is the email sent to the court about a fridge you delivered to one of your tenants during the weekend. So let's, I guess, start with this Facebook post that I've
Never
never,
existed.
I it was there. I mean, I just like that's the one thing I can't make sense of. Like,
I
did
think
she said she saw a Facebook post by your ex-husband in Walterboro word of mouth that said, you know, you had been drinking with your ex-husband and talking about the trial.
that's what she told me.
Now, you don't even have a relationship with your ex-husband. Y'all haven't talked in like 10 years.
No.
And
I
I
think the
mean,
only time we ever talked, we had a very messy divorce, so the only time we ever really correspond with each other is usually a text on, who gets to see our son for like Christmas holiday or Thanksgiving, where he's going to spend it. But other than that, we have
right,
no relationship. So when she
right,
told me that, I was just like, the hell? Can you show it to me? But she couldn't.
right. I mean, are you even overly active on social media? I mean, you were during the trial.
No, no. I have everybody I know has got Instagram and all these other social media platforms. I have Crackbook. That's what I call Facebook.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
Crackbook.
yeah,
And, during the trial, I had a friend of mine put that I was on Facebook jail because she knew I had been selected for jury duty.
yeah.
So she put on there that I was in Facebook jail so nobody would think anything. I might post a memory on there or something positive, but other than that, no.
Right. So I mean, I have looked for proof of this post. I mean, and yeah, I have a massive timeline going on this. Um, and none of it makes sense. Nobody's ever brought forward proof of this post. There was one post that she did bring forward that was by another person with the same name of your ex-husband in another state and completely unrelated to this. That's the only thing I've ever seen. So none of that made sense. But
No.
she talked to you about it.
Hmm.
And when
She
she
did.
talked to you about it, she asked you where you're leaning
She
on your
did.
verdict.
She did. And I told her at the time I was undecided. I haven't heard enough to make, either way. I wanted to hear more. I wanted to see the evidence.
And then shortly after that all comes to light, you know, you're worried because you're like, why is my ex-husband making a Facebook post about me lying? Um, you delivered a fridge to two of your tenants that you know are living in a rental house on February 18th
Hmm.
with your husband, your now husband. Um, and one of those tenants, I mean, this gets convoluted, but one of those tenants works at Domino's Pizza. And one of her coworkers decided to email the court and report that you had been discussing the trial with her coworker while you're delivering the fridge.
Hmm.
Yeah, you said that never happened.
No.
Okay,
I,
like you dropped
yeah,
the fridge off.
I did deliver a fridge, and it's funny because her and I talked about Domino's Pizza because she knew that the courts had just had Domino's Pizza because I don't know if she delivered them or she was there. She was talking about how much the courts just paid for the pizza. And that was kind of the extent of our conversation, other than, we both had different jobs now. And I don't know where the email came from, where this girl came up with, I was talking to my tenants about it, and she just thought it was necessary to send an email because I had an opinion.
Well, I noted, I mean, the email to the court didn't come until February 27th, I think it was.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
So you drop the fridge off on the 18th, and this person waits 9 days. Nine
Right.
days. They're so worried. They wait 9 days, and she didn't know your name. Only referred, like, the only information she had about you was that you worked at the monkey farm,
Right.
which wasn't broadly known to the public.
No.
Um,
Yeah.
which I thought was really interesting.
So many things about that email have intrigued me.
I mean,
The
the
person,
elephant the
yeah.
elephant in the room is, she, after all of this jury tampering allegations, I'm just going to get into it. After all of the jury tampering allegations, shows up in a podcast forum, Discord. No, I've never been in one of those. I don't know how they work. But I think it's like where you post things, and thanks the podcast hosts, who happen to be the same people who posted the jury spreadsheet at the beginning of the trial. Thanks those podcast hosts and Mark Tinsley for guiding her.
Right. And then, she very happily announced who she was and that she had sent the email.
Which
E-
it's just
Even though,
bizarre.
yeah, it is, even though the tenant denies that she ever said anything.
So the tenant, after this email is sent, SLED and the AG's office are like, oh, we have got to go get affidavits from these individuals.
Hmm.
They never, to our knowledge, interviewed the woman that sent the tip in, right?
Not to my
Not to our
knowledge.
knowledge. We don't know a lot about the investigation because it's under wraps. Um, but so they go to your tenants and question them after it was late. It was like after 9, 10 o'clock,
Drug them out of
um,
bed.
and told them they had to come into court the next morning at 9 a.m. and sign affidavits.
Hmm.
That information, the interviews and the affidavits, have been sealed by Judge Newman, to protect your identity, um, perhaps their identity. I'm not sure. Um, as well as all of the in-camera conferences behind closed doors regarding this. But your tenants are saying that you didn't
They
talk
didn't,
to them about that.
and I didn't.
And your husband was right there. Your husband said the same thing.
Yeah.
But come March 2nd,
Hmm.
in the courtroom, you have become infamous because you were dismissed from the jury. That's like the day of the verdict.
Hmm.
I mean, but it was after Moselle, after the visit to Moselle.
Hmm.
Um,
It was after my phone call that morning with Becky.
okay.
Yeah.
So can you tell me just a little bit about that day?
So we arrive at the designated parking area where the vans would come and pick us up. As we pull in to park, my phone's ringing. It's my ex-husband, which I'm like, what the hell? I haven't
I,
heard from him. I just was told that he made this Facebook post. I'm freaking out. We parked the car. I run up to the officer that's driving us to the courtroom, and I'm like, my ex-husband is calling me. I need to talk to Becky now. She had already told me that, SLED and Colleton County had talked to him and that there's going to be a new restraining order. He would not be bothering me. So he told me, just bring your phone with you, and they took my phone. When we got to the courthouse, Mr. Bill got Becky on his phone and brought me the phone. I told her, I said, Becky, I'm scared. I said, my ex is calling me after what you told me about this Facebook post. I'm scared. And she tells me the Murdochs probably got to him.
Now, your ex-husband actually submitted an affidavit that SLED nor Colleton County nor the AG's
Never.
office have ever contacted him.
No, they did not.
None of this makes, like, it makes sense, but none of it makes sense.
Exactly. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It just.
So do
I,
you, I mean, you lay it out pretty bluntly in your book. You think you were removed from the jury because you were undecided.
I do.
You were kind of the wild horse. They
And
didn't know what was going to happen.
it could have went either way, but they didn't want to give me the benefit of the doubt because I was undecided.
Uh-huh. I mean, you sat there for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, listened to all of that, all of the trial testimony, looked at all of that evidence, looked at those pictures. You know, you served for 6 weeks on this jury, and just like that, boom, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like that day, you must have kind of been shocked.
Oh, you know, several people have asked me that. How did you feel? Were you mortified? Were you embarrassed? I don't even think I had emotion. I was just completely dumbfounded. Here he is. He's telling me that, I've been by all means a great juror. I've paid attention and I'm always smiling and, blah, blah, blah. And then he tells me to protect the integrity of the court, he's going to have to dismiss me. But there was 3 people not affiliated with the trial that said that I had been talking, even though it had been waffled. So I'm just thinking, who the hell is saying that I have talked? I haven't talked to
Right.
anybody. I'm like,
Right. It's my ex-husband who nobody talked to, and it's my tenants who have said, no, she didn't say anything.
yeah. So the only
Give me my
person I
eggs and let
offered
me
an
get
opinion,
out.
the only person I offered an opinion to was Becky when she
Because
questioned
she
me,
asked.
and I told her undecided. So I just.
It's I've never seen. I just can't put the pieces together. But I think when people read your book, they might see you've been working to put the pieces together.
I have I have solidly been, I want answers.
Right.
I really do. I want answers. Why? I mean,
Right.
was your book that important? Was it somebody else putting you up to this? Were you the mastermind? I mean, I just somebody somewhere knows something.
Right. And that's the big question is where did I mean that's two separate efforts to get you removed from the jury. I think if you look at it, perhaps one failed and they chose a different route. Um,
Exactly.
which I don't I want, like me, I want things to make sense, and I just none of this I can't make any of it make sense.
You can't.
Yeah.
I
And
have yet to been able to.
so I think, I mean, for you, this isn't necessarily like clearing your name. This is about justice
Yeah,
and the process to get there.
right. I don't
I
know.
mean, this is a loaded question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want. Do you think Alex Murdoch is guilty now?
I can't say whether I think he's innocent or whether I think he's
Yeah.
guilty. I just don't believe that it was proven that he was guilty.
Yeah. Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, definitely doesn't feel like this is something that, the motive for Becky, I think it was there, but I don't think it was big enough for her to do this on her own. And you're already getting pushback on social
Oh, yeah.
media for telling your story. And really, your book's just become available on Amazon today. Uh,
Right.
and yet already people are saying you're not credible. What is your response to that?
um, show me where I'm not credible. I have not lied about one thing. I brought receipts. If you read my book, the receipts are in there. I mean, what have I lied about?
Right.
How am I not credible?
Right. And I don't understand, what I've never understood the pushback to figuring out what happened. People are like, well, what does it matter? He's guilty. And I see this, I see pushback, and it doesn't really, it doesn't make sense to me that,
Yeah,
you're really just trying to say what happened, because it really doesn't make sense.
well, I think a lot of people have overloaded their emotional hatred for Alex and they let that lead them. I didn't know Alex before the trial. I don't know Alex now. All I know is what happened during the trial. Do I have mixed feelings on, what was said? Like I said, I don't believe he's a good person. I think he lied. But unfortunately, the state did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed murder. And
Right.
I think that everybody deserves a fair trial. And just because you hate somebody for being a thief or a liar, it doesn't take away their Sixth Amendment right. Everybody should have a right to a fair trial. If you're going to talk about me, but know
Yeah.
your facts. Bring a
Yeah.
receipt.
Yeah.
I've heard everything from, my husband putting an affidavit that I was talking about the case. Show me one.
Right.
And, I mean, don't say I said something when you don't have the proof to back it up.
Right. And that's the thing. Now we don't have, we still don't have the transcripts from the in-camera hearings. We don't have the affidavits. We don't have anything that can help us substantiate, everything. And, your attorney, Joe McCulloch, has been a very ardent advocate for getting that information, for the transparency that would come with opening that information. And that information was sealed to protect your identity. And you're like, I don't care. You know who I am now.
Exactly. If you're protecting my identity and I'm asking for it to be unsealed, what's the problem?
Right. Do you think that if that stuff was unsealed, based on what you know, that people may be surprised?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And Joe hasn't given up that fight. I saw his interview last week, and he's still, he
He's
said,
fighting hard trying to get it done.
right. What is your goal to get that opened up?
I think it would I don't wanna say something I can't say because 'cause they're
Yeah.
sealed, but, how do you put it? I really think that more people would say, "You know what? He deserves a fair trial."
Right. Right. It would become clearer that perhaps a new trial is needed.
Exactly.
Okay. So you have got, okay, this has been a big day. So the book should be dropping on Amazon soon. It's supposed to be released today. I think on your Facebook page, your co-author posted that, you've approved it for release. You're just waiting on Amazon. It's a really interesting read. I think from the perspective of a juror in a high profile trial. And then taking a closer look at what happened in your dismissal and the things leading up to it. I think, regardless of what you think, if you have an opinion, you really should, read the book so you have all sides of the story. Um, and I hope people do. You co-wrote it with a ghost author, Crime and Cask,
Mhm.
and he's been kind of, helping you through all of this. What's next for you? You're kind of just hoping after your side of the story's out, you can take a take a breather and not think about this anymore?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yes. Start going back to your laying low.
Yeah, try and have some kind of normalcy. You know, knowing that I did, it's not been easy by far. And people are gonna talk, people are gonna have opinions, but like you said, my book has what what happened to me, what I saw, what I felt, what went on. Before you judge me, look at what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I, I've been following the story since before I knew you, and it's never changed. You've never wavered, and it's never made any more sense from the other side. So yeah, I am very much looking forward to a point in time where we can see the whole picture and start putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Again, Myra's book is Enough is Enough, and it is available on Amazon starting today. Did you guys do an audiobook?
I did not.
Okay,
I did
great.
not.
Okay, just want to make sure if it was available. And you've done, you're going to we'll see interviews with you on impact of influence with Seton Tucker, and I think I heard that you're doing Anjanette.
Yes, ma'am.
Law and Crime. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
She's great. So yeah, we'll be seeing a lot of you for a little bit, and then hopefully you can go back to having some nice quiet country time.
Yeah, some normalcy.